I was about to knock out my mobility routine for the day, and currently I am doing the C.a.r's mobility routine. So this is a joint by joint approach that's going to take you literally from head to toe, just articulating every joint and exploring all ranges of motion. It's a great way to check in with your body and see how you're feeling. On the intensity scale, I'm keeping it a little bit lower. Some things to mention before we start off the routine is we want to avoid closing angle pain. So let's use the neck circle as an example. I want to make sure that, let's say I'm in this extended position. If I'm in this extended position and I'm feeling pain on the closing angle of this stretch, I want to avoid that position, right? So we will just close the circle and make the circle smaller in order to avoid pain. Same thing with the shoulder. If I was coming through my rotation, I should feel a stretch down here, not back here. If I feel a stretch or a pain in the top portion of my shoulder, I would just shorten the circle in order to try to stay out of pain, right? So without further ado, I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to keep the tempo the same, and we'll be giving explanations throughout the routine. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. So we're going to start off with neck C.a.rs. I'm going to start by pressing my fists into the ground. Then I'm going to roll my chin back first. Then I'm going to roll forward. If I'm doing this correctly, you should feel a stretching sensation along the ears and the back of the neck here. From here, I'm going to take my chin and just rotate over to the left, and then I'm going to lean all the way over to the left side, continuing the circle till I'm in extension. Again, reaching for the ground, squeezing my core, and just continuing the circle. Once I get to the bottom, I'll just continue the same direction, rotate, lean, extend, rotate, lean, forward. Once I've done two, I will stop, and then we'll just reverse the pattern. Again, just trying to trace the biggest circle as possible. So after about 2 rotations, we're going to move lower down the spine into a T-spine C.a.rs. So from this one, I like to hug the shoulders or hug the arms around like this, like I'm giving a bear hug. I'm going to separate the feet. I'm going to tuck the pelvis under, and then I'm just going to roll forward. I'm going to roll to the end of my range without letting my hips come into the picture. Then I'm going to again rotate to the left, lean over to the left, roll through extension, really keeping that bear hug big here, and then continuing the rotation all the way to the right side before leaning over to the right and melting into this forward fold position, continuing the rotation. So the T-spine and the cervical spine have the same degrees of motion, just a little bit lower down the spine. And then I'm just going to work my way in the opposite direction. Again, right lateral lean, extend, rotate to the left, lean over to the left, and then center. So this whole time, I'm just trying to imagine my lower body is stuck in cement, and I'm just moving my upper body through its fullest range of motion. Okay, awesome. So up next, we're going to start off with the shoulders with some scapula C.a.rs, so these shoulder blades. We're going to get them moving. I like to break this one down a little bit, so I'm going to bring my arms to this Y position, and then we're just going to reach forward. We're going to shrug up. We're going to pull back, and then we're going to pull down, right? Maintaining that pinch. Then we're just going to reach forward. We're going to pull up, try not to use the neck. Pull all the way back. Try not to change the rib cage position. Just moving the shoulder blades. Bring them down. and then forward. Once I reach that forward position, I will reverse. So again, we'll bring them together, we'll bring them up, and then we'll bring them forward. Then we'll bring them down, then we'll bring them together, then we'll bring them up, then we'll bring them forward. From here, we're gonna move all the way down into shoulder CARs. So same concept. I'm gonna take a big inhale, brace through my midline, keep myself accountable. If I rotate through the trunk, I die. I'm gonna start off with rotation like this, right? So I always tell people, give me money. That's the way to remember this. And I'm gonna bring the arm towards the midline. So right on, lined up with the belly button. And then I'm just gonna bring the arm all the way overhead, trying to maintain as much of this rotation as possible and not allow myself to overextend. So keeping this down from this top position, I'm going to try to rotate my thumb downward. And I'm going to try to do as much of that rotation before I pass horizontal, right? So right about this point, I should be all done with internal rotation, and then I'm just going to continue all the way down until my knuckles reach the side of my body. And I'll reverse that. I'll reach as far back as I can, and then just unravel the rotation all the way back to the same start position. So that would be one rep, and then we'll repeat one more time. Forward, so we're bringing it up, watching the elbow here, keeping the rib cage down, continuing the rotation. Notice how my fist is rotating, trying to get the bicep to rotate towards the ground before I pass horizontal. Then I finish with my knuckles down by my side, and I'm going to reverse the process. So let's take care of the left arm now. Bring it across the body, trying to squeeze as much rotation as possible. I notice this left side oftentimes is more challenging, so really focus here. And then we're gonna rotate the thumb all the way down till the bicep is facing the ground, and just continue the rotation all the way till the knuckles touch. And we repeat in reverse. Again, this is a controlled movement, so I'm really just trying to take my time and find the fullest range that I can without compensations. Awesome, so we're just gonna move from the shoulder down to the elbows. So for this first one, we're gonna rotate the palms up. We're gonna pretend that we're pulling through cement here, and we're gonna reach full flex like this. Once we reach full flex, we're gonna rotate like this. We're gonna squeeze the ribs down, no compensations. Don't allow the elbows to flare too much. Try to keep them nice and tight to the body. And then we're just gonna, again, through the cement, just really trying to create tension all the way down. Once we're fully extended, we'll rotate the palms back up again, and then we'll come back up to the start position, right? So again, my left elbow wants to flare out here. I'm really keeping it nice and tight, reaching that end range before rotating the palms back down, and then just creating that pressure as if I'm flexing and really having to fight to get to the bottom range of motion. So from here, we just started with our arms supinated. We're gonna rotate them this way now, and then we're just gonna change the direction of our rotation. So again, this feels way more awkward. I'm gonna hit that full flex, then we're just gonna rotate, and then we're just gonna come back down. So these are crucial for keeping the elbows nice and lubricated. And then we'll just rotate down. Awesome, and then we got one last joint on the picture. We got the fingers, but we're not gonna mess with those today. So for this one, I'm gonna lock the forearm like this. We gotta keep the grip up, right? And then I'm gonna flex my hand down. I'm gonna flex my hand up, right? So it's slap it, don't grab it, right? Once I'm in this position, the second thing that we're gonna work on is just rotating. I like to rotate out to the left, and then just come down like this. There's a little bit in this corner right here where I'm trying to rotate the thumb towards this outside wall, and then again flex and then rotate. Continue the rotation all the way down towards the ground. Again, don't grab it, slap it, right? And keep the forearm facing up throughout the whole movement. From here, I'm gonna flip it over, and then we're just gonna do the same thing. So just up, down, and around. Try to keep that thumb open. So over to the left, down to the bottom, over to the right, all the way up to the top, and then back to the left, repeating the circle. Awesome. And then we're gonna switch it up, hit the other side. So we'll pull towards us. This is the wrist that I like to break a lot, and you'll notice my body wants to lean. So again, no borrowing from any of the other joints. We're just trying to isolate the wrist. This one's creaky, it's poppy, but it's a check-in, and it gets better every day. And this is also could be a sign that, okay, cool, this is like the wrist you should work on today. Good, and then we'll hit it in reverse, down, lift, up, all the way to the right. Don't let the elbow flare out. Continue the rotation. Awesome. So that's pretty much the upper body. We're going to move on to the lower body. The first move is the hip C.a.rs. Now with this one, if you have a problem with understanding, or if you have a problem, this shouldn't be a balance move. So holding on to something like a doorway or anything like that just to brace yourself is probably a good idea. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my knee up. Once I pull my knee up, I'm going to try to pull it across my body like this. If I had headlights, the headlights would stay forward, the leg would come across the body. From here, I'm going to take the leg out to the side. So it's very important that as I bring this leg out to the side, that I don't allow myself to jackknife like this, right? So we should be able to just really slow and make sure that when I'm bringing the leg out, that it's not happening from my hips. My hips are still facing forward, headlights forward. From here, we're gonna rotate the leg up. Don't allow the pelvis to tuck. Rotate as high as you can. Think hacky sack, right? My heel's close to my bottom. From here, I'm not gonna let the knee come inward, and I'm just going to rotate as much as I can. Now I'm gonna rotate as much as I can without allowing this to shorten. And I'll continue the rotation all the way back to where my knee is behind me like this, bringing my heel to my butt and my knees together. Once my knees are together, I will continue the rotation by reversing, leading with the foot, right? And driving the knee as wide before rotating back to the front through this rotated position, aka hacky sack. And then we're just gonna bring the knee forward and just a little bit across the body. That's one. And then we'll just repeat out to the side, rotating the shin up, rotating the hip all the way around the corner, trying to keep this nice and long, continuing the rotation till the knees meet, and then reversing all the way back to the start position, through rotation, back to the center, and then now we're going to repeat on the opposite side. So I'll turn it around, we'll hit center like so, crossing the body, rotating it around, lifting that heel up as much as I can, and then just rotating all the way around until I reach the start position, rotate back. So this is the hip that needs a little extra love. So if you need it, feel free to do an extra rep or two on this side. Just pause the video before moving on. Just continuing to just try to fight for any extra range that we can find without moving the upper body, without shifting from the hips. So for this next one, you can do them seated on the floor. I like to use a mat. So So we just finished off with the hips. We're gonna move our way down to the knees. So I like to hug the knee in like this. I also even actually really like, so I'm creating like a cradle, and then I'm rotating, and I can actually use my hand, because in the beginning, if you haven't done something like this, it's very challenging to understand how to actually move the tibia. So we're trying to get this shin bone right here, we're trying to get that to rotate. And it's very common, people will move their ankles in order to compensate, or they'll move their knee in order to compensate. So I'll trap this like this, and then I can be just a little lower with my hands, and then I can help initiate the movement. So here's what it's gonna look like. We're gonna rotate out first. Once I rotate the tibia out, I'm going to extend. Now it's very difficult to get full extension. In fact, I think it's impossible. But once we reach this point right here, we're gonna rotate like this. Right, so again, I'm using my hand to help me out, trying not to let this happen from the hip. It's actually happening from the shin, or trying as much as I can. And then I'm just gonna rotate down, rotate back, and then just continue this circle. So extend, rotate, bend. All right, from this position, I'll try the opposite direction. So that would be rotating inward, flexing the knee, rotating outward, extending, and then just lowering, rotating back in, coming back to the start position, and then finishing off on the left side. Then we will repeat on the right side. So again, trapping the knee, we're gonna rotate out, we're gonna extend, we're gonna rotate in, we're gonna lower back down. And we're gonna repeat for a total of 2 reps. Trying to stabilize this as much as I can. A little bit of movement is obviously going to happen, but I'm doing my very best to get that shin bone to rotate. Now last but definitely not least, and this is something that I'm definitely still working on, but we're going to try to get some movement from all of our toes. The foot is actually the foundation and extremely important. So as little as these guys are, they are very important to our movement.